In this video, we're going to be looking at the usefulness of the place value system. So here we have the place value system gives a digit a value based on where it is located within a group of numbers. For example, the digit 4, we're dealing with digit 4 now, based on where the digit 4 is located, means something different in the numbers, for example 54, 41, and it is also different in 460 or 4730. And later on we're going to be looking at how 4 will take a different value based on the column that it falls in the place value system. So before we engage into that activity, let me just label our place value system. And in labeling our place value system, I'm going to use different ways that we could label our place value system so that you're aware of the many varieties that we have out there. Now, this vertical orange line will represent my decimal point. Okay, and remember, the place value system is also called the decimal system of numeration, hence my decimal point. Okay, so at my decimal point, the column to the left, to my immediate left, would be my units column. So this column would represent my units column. And first, what I'm doing here, I'm representing my place value system in words. Okay, so this is my units column and it's found to the immediate left of the decimal point. Now going to my left, okay, after I've passed the units column, then I would have my tens column. Okay, so this is my tens column. And remember, please, the units column can also be called the ones column. Now after my tens column, I will have my hundreds column. So this is my hundreds column. All right, after my hundreds column, I will have my thousand column. So this is my thousand column. Now after my thousand column, I will have my 10,000 column. So this column represents my 10,000 and this is thousand. Okay, 10,000 column. Now after my 10,000 column, then I will have my 100. This is my 100,000 column. Okay, 100,000 column. Now after my 100,000 column, going to my left, I will have my 1 million column. So this is my million column. Okay, and after my million column, I will have my 10 million column. So this is my 10 million column. Okay, now to the right rather of my decimal point, and remember this vertical orange line represents my decimal point, I will have my 10th column. Okay, this is my 10th, and it spells 10th is with a th. Now this would be my 100th. So this is my 100th column. Okay, now this is my 1000 column, 1000, and it ends with a th, and this would be my 10,000th column, 1000. This is my 10,000th column. Okay, now the general thing that I would want you to underscore, or I would want you to capture, is the fact that as I move to the left of my decimal point in the place value system, the number is getting larger and larger and larger. Okay, so for example, in the immediate left is my units. So units, that's my ones column. Then the next column going to my left would be the tens. Tens is greater than units. The next column going to my left is the hundreds. To the left of tens is the hundreds, and the hundreds would be greater than than the tens, and the next column that I will be moving from my 100 is my thousandth, and my thousand column is greater than my hundreds column. So if you realize, as I move further to my left in the place value system, the number, right, is getting larger and larger. So just look at this. As I move from the units, I am increasing in size. Okay, something like that. That's what I want you to capture. I'm going up and up and up. So the more that I move to the left, rather, of my decimal point in the place value system, the number is getting larger and larger. Now, if you notice, it's the opposite here. To the right of the decimal point, the more I move to my right of the decimal point, the number is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Alright, so that's a critical thing I would like you to note. Here we have note, or we have labeled our place value system in words. Now let us label it in numbers. Now this form, in as it regards to numbers that I'll be labeling it, this form is called the expanded form. Okay, and in the expanded form, basically what I'm saying in my units column, the same thing. This number that I'll be putting in my units column, it means the same thing as units, and that is 1. Sorry, let me just change the color quickly. Now I have a 1 times 1. Okay, and that is 1 times 1 is 1, and units means 1. Okay, here now I would have a 1 times 10. Okay, 1 times 10 is 10, and here I would have a 1 times 100. Okay, 1 times 100 is still 100, so that has the same value as the words. Now I would have a 1 times 1,000. 1, 2, 3. Then here I would have 1 times 10,000. 1, 2, 3. Here I would have 1 times 100,000. So I would have 1, 1, 2, 0, and then I'm adding 1, 2, 3 more zeros. Okay, now here I have a million, so I would have 1 times a million, which is 1 and 6 zeros. That's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So I have 6 zeros there. Okay, so a million is 1 and 6 zeros. And then here now I would have a 1 times, and I would have 7 zeros. So that's 1 0. So I need 6 more. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. So that's 10 million column. All right. Now to my to my right of the decimal point, I would have a 1 over 10, and this 1/10 is the same as that 10th. Now for the 100th column, I would have 1 over 100. Okay, for my 1,000, I would have 1 over 1,000. 1, 2. Okay, that's 1 over 1,000. And for my 10,000, I would have 1 over 10,000. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and all of these values are the same based on the column that it falls in. All right, now that's representing my place value system in numbers, and this form of numbers, we call it the expanded form. Okay, now let's look at how we would represent it in the exponential form. All right, and again, I'm starting at my units column. So if I'm representing it in exponential form, here now, let me change the color. Let me use a red. I would have 10 to the 0. Okay, and 10 to the 0, and I'm going to be doing a video on introduction on exponents, and you will know in that video I'll show you that any digit raised to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So 10 to the 0 is the same as 1. So this here represents my units column. Now my tens column is basically 10 to the power of 1. Okay, and that's my tens column. Now my hundreds column is 10 to the power of 2. All right, my thousand column is 10 to the power of 3. My 10,000 column is 10 to the power of 4. My 100,000 column would be 10 to the power of 5. And my million column here would be 10 to the power of 6. And my 10 million column would be 10 to the power of 7. Okay? Now, and I've said this form that I'm representing my place value system in is the exponential form. Now, as I move across the decimal point going to my right, now this would be 10 to the negative 1. And this would be 10 to the negative 2. And this would be 10 to the negative 3. And this would be 10 to the negative 4. Now, if you look carefully, right, when you're representing it in exponential form, this number at the bottom here, the 10 at the bottom, if you notice, I have a common base 10, which represents the base that I am operating in, okay? And then it is raised to a power. If you notice here in my units column, I didn't have any 0 here beside the 1 in the units column, hence I've raised 10 to the power of 0. If you notice here in the tens column, I had a 10 here, so I had a 0 here, only 1 0 here in the tens column, so I had to raise my base 10 to the power of 1. If you notice, if you look by comparison in the hundreds column here, I had 2 zeros beside my 1, so I had to raise the 10 to the power of 2. Okay, so you can look at that trend going up and follow it. All right, so we have just expressed our place value system in exponential form. So in red here, you call this form exponential form. Now let's look at it the final way that we're going to be looking at it in the decimal form. Okay, so quickly I'm going to start at my units column again, and we're going to represent this in decimal form. Now since this is my units column, then I'm saying then this is my ones column. Then I would have my tens column. Okay, then I would have my hundreds column. So this is my hundreds column. Now this would be my thousand column. 1, 2, 3. This would be my 10,000 column. 1, 2, 3. This would be my 100,000 column. Okay, and I have 1, 2, 3. Now this would be my millionth column, so I have a 1 and I have 6 zeros. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros. Now this is my 10 million column, so I would have a 1 and 7 zeros. Okay, so I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 zeros. All right, and if you notice again by comparison, all I did was to put a 1, and if the power is 7 here, I would have 7 zeros. The power is 6 here, so I would add 6 zeros to my 1. All right, now let's continue to the left, to the right rather, of my decimal point, and here I would have a 0.1. Here I would have a 0.01. Here I would have in my thousand column, now I would have a 0.001, and in my 10,000 column I would have a 0.0001, and that's how we represent and this is how we represent numbers on our place value system. And this final method that we have just used is called the decimal form. All right, now thank you and bye bye.